Hola a todos, bienvenidos a esta nueva edición de Education USA International Education Week. Esta va a ser en inglés, así que por favor entiendan que la presentación va a ser en inglés. All right, so I'm just saying that this is going to be an English presentation for everybody, and we are celebrating International Education Week here at Education USA, and we are here now with Samantha Kemmers. I hope I pronounced it right.
Yes.
She is from the Milwaukee School of Engineering, and she's going to be talking to us about the graduate and undergraduate degrees and an application that they are offering, especially in terms of STEM. Remember that STEM is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So this is big for us because there are many people interested in that in all Latin America. So it's going to be a very interesting conversation. And Samantha, how's the weather in Milwaukee? Where is Milwaukee in the U.S.?
Of course, yeah. So Milwaukee is located in the state of Wisconsin. Wisconsin is in the Midwest region of the United States. We are about an hour and a half north of Chicago. So you might be familiar with Chicago, a very big city in the United States. So Milwaukee is located very close to Chicago. In the Midwest region, it does snow during the winter, so it does get a little bit cold this time of year. But don't worry, if you've never seen snow before, it is a really awesome thing to see. It just does get a little bit cold.
All right. So you have to be prepared.
Yes.
All right, Samantha. I'm gonna show your presentation. This is your presentation, and it has a very interesting name. Your title. It says Director of Non-Traditional Admission. What are non-traditional admissions?
Yes, so non-traditional admissions incorporates three different populations of students. So of course, international students. We also help graduate or master's level students. And then we also help transfer students. So there are many US students who move from one university to another, and those are transfer students. So we help all three populations.
That's interesting because that may be a whole new topics that we could talk about one of these days. That we get a lot of people asking to transfer.
Yes.
Students that are in the first or second year at a local university here in Chile, and they decided that maybe the institution wasn't the one from them, or they want to pursue a long time dream of going to the States, and they decided, okay. And some people even say, I want to start all over again, and I don't mind if I have to start from zero. So maybe that could be a very interesting conversation that we could have. All right, Samantha, I'm going to disappear, and I will leave you with your presentation. And if we have any question or anything, guys, feel free to put it on the chat. And at the end, we can answer all the questions you may have. Right?
Of course.
Right.
Are you able to see my presentation?
Yes, everything is great.
Okay, great. Well, thank you everyone for joining me today. My name is Samantha. I'm the Director of Non-Traditional Admissions at the Milwaukee School of Engineering. And today we're going to be talking about STEM education in the United States. And we'll also talk a little bit about MSoe University, which is a university focused on STEM programs such as engineering. So what we'll talk about today, we'll talk a little bit about the different STEM majors, the types of schools in the United States that offer STEM majors, the application process, tuition and scholarships, and then, like I said, we'll talk a little bit about the Milwaukee School of Engineering particularly. So to talk a little bit about the STEM majors, as we discussed already, STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. And you can see here there are a few different majors included in each of the fields. But there are dozens of majors that you can choose from that are in the STEM field. These are just a few of the options. So for science, there's biology, chemistry, physics, technology. We have business analytics, data science, information technology. Engineering, we have computer engineering, chemical engineering, and mechanical engineering. And math, of course, we have actuarial science, business statistics, and risk. So of course, these are only a few of the majors that fit into each of these categories. But just know if you're interested in a STEM field or a STEM major, you will be taking areas from science, technology, engineering, and math for all the different majors. So it includes science, technology, engineering, and math in the programs and the curriculums. So you may be wondering, why should I get a STEM degree? Why would you be interested in pursuing a degree in the STEM field? The reason for that is because STEM is a very popular job currently, and there are a lot of job opportunities in the STEM field. 73% of STEM jobs do require a bachelor's or 4-year degree. So it's very important that if you're interested in getting into the STEM field, that you are pursuing a bachelor's degree or a 4-year degree. This number is projected to go up. So this just means that if you're very interested in any of those STEM fields, it's very important to look into higher education at a 4-year institution. Statistics show that occupations in the next 10 years in the STEM field are expected to increase by 8%. This is compared to about 3.7% for all other occupations. What this means is that the STEM field is projected to increase. So there will be more jobs in the STEM field within the next 10 years. So this means that it's a very great field for you to look into because there's going to be many job opportunities, especially in the computer field. So computer occupations such as information security analyst or computer science software developers, this is projected to grow by almost 12% in the next 10 years. This is the largest growth of all STEM-related jobs. So this just means there's going to be a lot of opportunity for jobs in the STEM field within computer occupations specifically in the next 10 years. When we're talking about an undergraduate versus a graduate or a master's degree, there's a lot of key differences. So we'll begin with undergraduate. Undergraduate education needs a high school education or a high school diploma. So you have to finish your high school education before you can move on to an undergraduate degree. An undergraduate degree is a 4-year degree, and typically students will study full-time, and this is usually about 12 credits. If you are planning to study in the United States, full-time status is 12 credits as a requirement. You have to take 12 credits per semester in order to be a full-time student. After you finish with your undergraduate degree, if you want to continue on with your education, you can move on to your graduate or your master's degree. To get a graduate degree, you need to have a bachelor's degree, so a Bachelor of Science or a Bachelor of Arts. This takes about 2 years. It's a little bit shorter because it is more specialized with what you're learning. Full-time for graduate students is usually about 9 credits, so it is a little bit lower because it is more specialized study. You may be wondering, what can I do once I get my degree? So there's really 2 different paths that you can take once you receive your undergraduate degree. Once you receive that degree, you can either move on to get your master's degree, or you can enter into the field of work that you've studied. So in the first case, if you decide to move on to get your master's degree, this could be examples of Master of Science of Engineering, Civil Engineering, Computer Science. It will become more specialized to what you want to study. If you decide to move on and start working in the field, your undergraduate education can prepare you to enter the industry right away and begin working in that field. And we'll talk about this a little bit with the Milwaukee School of Engineering. You need to understand what type of undergraduate school you are studying at to know if they're preparing you for graduate school or if they're preparing you to work in your field. Milwaukee School of Engineering, we prepare students to work in their field of study right away after they graduate. We'll talk about that a little bit further in the presentation. One thing that's very important when you're in your undergraduate degree is getting an internship. So internships, typically students can have 1 or multiple internships during their 4 years of study with their undergraduate degree. And jobs really look to hire students who have real-world experience, and often you can get real-world experience through an internship. Through an internship, you can also network, so you potentially could be hired on for full-time work if you do a good job at your internship. And it allows you to have career development, experiencing a professional atmosphere before you graduate from your undergraduate degree. You'll also get some personal growth because you can determine which different types of jobs you would like in your field. If you do an internship and you really liked your internship, likely you'll be good at that job when you graduate from your 4-year degree. It also gives you a really great competitive edge on your resume. So if you've completed an internship, often jobs will look at your resume, see that you've had that real-world experience, and often want to hire you over a student who doesn't have internship experience. Internships within engineering and STEM fields can also be very highly paid. So there's a chance that if you get an internship over the summer, you can make some good money working at that internship. At MSoe, 80% of our students have a paid internship within their second year. So it's very important that you look for these internship opportunities because it will make you a competitive applicant when you're looking for a job. 72% of college graduates with internship experience get a job offer, in contrast to 36.5% of those who don't have an internship. So it's very important that you look into these when you're in your college 4 years, so that way you have a competitive edge over other students. You may be wondering, how can I find an internship? So some universities will help you find internships, and some ways that they can do this is by career fairs on campus. Career fairs are where many companies will come on campus looking to offer internships to students and looking for students to interview for these internships. Paid internships are more likely in the STEM field, so as I mentioned, your chances of having a paid internship in an engineering field is very high. Some universities also have company partnerships, so sometimes they may have companies that continually hire or give internships to that university students. So when you're looking for a university, it's important to know what type of partnerships exist at that university. As I mentioned, many institutions have strong relationships with these companies, so that way they're always looking to offer internships to that university's students. The size of the university you attend will also determine the competition you have for internships. So if you attend a very large university, just know you're going to have a lot more competition when it comes to the internships within that city. If you attend a very small university, your chances of getting an internship will increase because there won't be as many students competing against you for those internships. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the types of schools in the United States. There are many differences between the universities in the United States. There are thousands of universities in the United States, so it's important that you know the differences between the universities before you make your decision on where you want to attend. So in the United States, there are very small universities and there are very large universities. You can see in this picture here, this is an example of a very large university. Your class size will be determined by how many students attend that university. So if you attend a very large university, you can expect to have large class sizes, like in the picture here. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but just know that if you're in a classroom with this many other students, it is a little more difficult to get attention from your professors. It is more difficult to get your questions answered when there are hundreds of other students in the classroom with you. If you attend a small university, your classes are going to be much smaller and you'll be able to get that attention from your professors. The professor interaction is very important because your professors are the ones who will help you in your classes. If you have questions that you need answered, or if you're struggling with some of the content in the class, your professor is going to be your main resource to help you. So you want to make sure you have good access to your professors and that they're able to spend time helping you. Campus culture will be determined by a large or small institution as well. So you may have seen from some movies or from some media, very large universities having many events and a lot of school spirit. This campus culture is not missing from a small university. It just might be a little bit different. So make sure you know what type of university you're interested in when you're comparing universities. You also want to be aware of private versus public universities in the United States. So some universities will be privately funded and some of them will be publicly funded. Typically, tuition is a little bit more expensive at a private institution, but private institutions often offer many more scholarships than public institutions will. Private institutions usually are smaller than public institutions. So keep in mind that if you want to go to a very large school, likely it will be a public school. If you want to go to a very small school, likely it will be a private school. Some private schools also have a religious affiliation. This is not always the case, but make sure that if you're looking into a private school, you know if the school is religiously affiliated or not. Some of our private versus public schools will also have different diversity. So some schools might have a wider variety of diversity versus a smaller variety. Sometimes private institutions can be known to have a little bit higher prestige, but this does not necessarily correlate to the quality of the education you're receiving. And then finally, private versus public schools often will have different ranges of program offerings. So make sure you know what type of program you're interested in. For example, the Milwaukee School of Engineering is a private institution. We are a very small institution, and we are focused on engineering. So if you're not interested in engineering, likely the Milwaukee School of Engineering would not be a good school for you to look into because there isn't a wide range of other majors. We are very focused on engineering, nursing, and business as well. So students who attend Milwaukee School of Engineering, they already know that they're interested in engineering or in the STEM field. So if you're unsure what type of program you're interested in, you might want to look at a much larger or public institution that has a very wide range of program offerings. You also want to be aware of urban versus rural schools. So you'll see in the two pictures here, across the United States, we have thousands of institutions. Many of them are in big cities, but many of them are also in rural areas. So just make sure you know what type of area you want to live in. If you live in a city, you're going to have great access to resources and public transportation. If you live in a rural area, you'll have more access to natural resources and parks, beautiful areas where you can enjoy nature. You also want to be very aware of where the university is in the United States. The United States is very large, and climates and seasons vary greatly depending on where you are in the United States. So you can see on both of the coasts, we have the New York City area, the Los Angeles area. Los Angeles is going to be very warm. On the West Coast, anything in the South is also going to be very warm. As you get more towards the north, where the blue states are there, it does get cold in the wintertime. So just know that wherever you're applying for schools, you need to be aware of the climate and what the temperature is in that area. You also want to be aware of the campus resources on the universities that you're applying to. So you want to make sure each of these areas listed here are supported at the university you're applying. So the first is health and wellness. You want to make sure that you are able to be taken care of in terms of your health, your mental health, your physical health, and your overall wellness. You also want to make sure that you have support in your academics. So having an academic advisor who's there to help you and having support through tutoring to make sure that you are successful. And then, of course, financial resources. So you want to make sure you know what type of financial aid or scholarships are available through the campuses you're applying to. You also want to be aware of what the housing requirement is. Many universities require you to live on campus for your first and second year. Milwaukee School of Engineering is an example of an institution that does not require you to live on campus. But make sure you know if the institutions you're applying to require you to live on campus. One on-campus option that is very popular with students is applying to become a resident assistant. Resident assistants typically can only apply within their second year. Typically, you cannot apply within your first year, but this is a really great opportunity for you to work on campus, potentially get free housing and meals if you are chosen to be a resident assistant. Here are some other positives about living on campus versus off campus. So when you live on campus, all of your expenses typically are included in the cost of living. So that includes your internet. It also includes utilities such as electricity, water, heat, and then it also often includes a meal plan as well. So make sure you understand the meal plan, if it's included or not in your on-campus accommodations. We also have promoting social life. If you live on campus, often you have access to the events and being around others in your floor, in your residence hall. So this promotes you to be able to have a really great connection and to make friends right away. Often it's a much shorter commute, so if you live on campus, you really don't have to drive anywhere to get to your classes. Usually you can just walk from your residence hall in order to get to each of your classes. Now, when we talk about off-campus living, there are a few other opportunities which make it very nice. So first, you often have more privacy. So if you live in an off-campus apartment, typically you're living there by yourself, or maybe you're sharing it with one or two other people. and you're not in a residence hall, which has hundreds of other students living there. You also have a year-round housing option. So if you live off campus, typically you could sign a lease with an apartment for 12 months of housing. If you live on campus, typically it's only about 9 months, or the length of the school year. So you just need to determine what is the best opportunity for you and if your institution allows you to live off campus within those first 2 years. When we're discussing the application process, there's many things that you need to remember and consider. The first is a rolling admission versus a regular admission. So a rolling admission means that there are no deadlines for which you have to apply. Typically, if you apply with a rolling admission, once all of your documents are received, you can hear back pretty quickly about your admission decision. Students can be accepted or rejected as they submit their application, so it's a very quick turnaround if you're in a rolling admission. If you are under a regular admission, typically there are deadlines for when you need to apply by. Students must meet those deadlines, and once they apply, they will wait to hear about their admission decision until a set date. All admission decisions are typically made for all students during a regular admission, so you usually will have to wait until the admission decision is made, and it's unsure how long that could take. You also want to make sure you are completing all of the required application materials. So the first is the application. It can be free or it can have an application fee. It really depends on which school you're applying to. And then below that are all the other optional materials that a school may request. So the first is test scores. Some institutions are waiving the ACT or the SAT because of COVID. Some institutions are not. So just make sure you know what you need to submit when you're applying for a school. All institutions will ask for your official transcripts, so make sure you have a copy of those. And then some may ask for letters of recommendation, an essay, and then all will usually require English proficiency, a copy of your passport, and a financial document or a financial guarantee, which explains the cost of tuition. If you're applying for graduate school or master's school, they also likely will ask for GRE, which is another proficiency test that students have to take in the United States, and if you're trying to get into a U.S. school. And then a personal statement, which just explains why you want to be admitted into the program. So just make sure you know what documents are required based on which schools you're applying to. And here's some other tips for applying. First, make sure you read all the instructions carefully to make sure you understand what you're applying to and what's required. Make sure you know your deadlines. Always turn in your documents sooner rather than later to ensure that you meet all of those required deadlines for the application materials. Make sure you request official transcripts or official test results. Some admissions counselors can use unofficial documents, but some cannot. So make sure that you have all of that available. And then make sure you provide all requested information and documents in a clear manner. Make sure that you proofread so all of your application materials make sense when you turn them in. You may be wondering, how can you have a competitive advantage on your application? So make sure first and foremost you exceed all of the admission requirements, and that includes your GPA from your transcripts and your ACT or SAT or GRE, depending if you're turning in a test score. Make sure you showcase your community involvement and make your essay very unique, so that way the school knows why they should choose you for admission. And then, of course, make sure you complete your application early so all of that is turned in and you meet your deadlines. When discussing tuition and scholarships, there are a few things that you need to know. So make sure you understand the cost of tuition, plus living expenses and health insurance when you're applying to a university. It's often mandatory to get health insurance in the United States, so many institutions will require that as a part of your financial documents. In order to receive your visa, you have to show proof of finances for 1 full year of tuition and living expenses. And you can see in the photo here, this is an example of our financial guarantee. That way you can see how much is required based on tuition and living expenses, and which scholarship you're given to know how much it will cost to attend the school. There are different types of aid. Some aid will come from the university itself, and this can be in the form of a scholarship. It's important to know that international students are not eligible for U.S. federal aid. So all aid that you get from the university has to come in the form of a scholarship. If you're looking for additional aid, you can try a Homeland Government Scholarship or loans through your Homeland Financial Institution or sponsorship through a family or company aid. It's important that you know the cost of education in the United States and know that you have to be able to provide proof for that financial ability before you even get your visa. The cost of living in the United States varies greatly. So health insurance is one of the things that you need to consider. That's anywhere between $1,500 to $2,500. The cost of rent if you choose to live off campus can be anywhere from $700 to $1,000 per month. You also need to think about transportation, food, and miscellaneous costs depending on what you need while you're living in the United States. So that is all the information about STEM education in the United States. So I'm going to take a brief pause to see if we have any additional questions, and then we'll move on to the Milwaukee School of Engineering portion of the presentation. All right, hearing no questions, we will move forward. So now I'm going to talk about the Milwaukee School of Engineering.
I have one question.
Oh, sure.
The question that they have, and maybe something that you're going to explain later, but the question is, if I'm decided in my major, can I apply to Milwaukee School of Engineering?
Yes, you can, absolutely. But it's important that you should be interested in the STEM field. You should be interested in engineering or nursing or business, just because those are the only types of programs that we offer. So you can come in not knowing which type of program you want to do, but you should already be pretty drawn to engineering. Maybe it's just you don't know which type of engineering you want to do.
Okay, and he has another question, and this is the last one.
Mhm.
Is that do I need to take a math SAT? Do I need a super high score?
Yeah, so we do like to see the SAT, but we don't require it. So you don't have to take the SAT. We base our admissions off of your transcript from high school and your GPA. So we want to make sure you do have a strong math background, but we don't require you to take the SAT. When you actually arrive to campus or shortly before you arrive to campus, we will ask that you take a math assessment just so we know which math class to place you in, but we don't require to see the SAT.
Pretty good. All right. So we leave the rest of the question for the end of your presentation. So please.
Sure. Thank you. So, like I mentioned, the Milwaukee School of Engineering is a fairly specific university. We offer engineering, business, and nursing. And you can see here in this photo, this is our brand new computer science facility. So this is a very new facility where we have state-of-the-art equipment for computer science and software engineering students to use. We want to make sure that everything we have on campus is state-of-the-art, brand new, so that way you're learning in the best facility that there is to offer. MSoe is very highly ranked in engineering. So we are ranked number 9 in the United States for undergraduate engineering programs. And you can see we have a few programs in the top 15 as well. Actuarial science, computer engineering, electrical engineering, civil engineering, and mechanical engineering are very highly ranked in the United States. So if you're interested in any of those programs along with the others that we offer, MSoe is a great opportunity for you to be in a top-ranked institution in the United States. The reason why we're so successful is we have an application-oriented curriculum. So what this means is we are very hands-on. We want to make sure that you have over 600 hours of lab experience using the tools and the machines and the equipment that's needed in your field to be a top successful engineer. We also have a nursing program. So if anyone's interested in nursing, we have a very competitive nursing program, and our students are very successful in our nursing program. Another thing that makes us very unique is we have a computer science program that focuses on artificial intelligence, and we have a supercomputer on campus. So what a supercomputer is it's a very large, very fast computer that not a lot of institutions have on campus. So we have this available for undergraduate students to use, and it's a really great piece of equipment that's very beneficial to our computer scientists. As I mentioned, we are located in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, so you can see a map here to see how close we are to Chicago. We are the largest city in the state of Wisconsin, and we are located on Lake Michigan, which is one of the Great Lakes in the Midwest region of the United States. We're about 130 kilometers north of Chicago, so Chicago is one of the largest cities in the United States. And we're a very small school, so we have just under 3,000 students in total. We have about 100 international students on campus with 30 different countries represented. We also have many international faculty. So we're a very diverse campus, and we're a very small campus. So this means you're going to get that attention from your professors all of the time. And again, we're focused on the application of what you're learning in the classroom. So you will spend some time learning your theory, but then you will apply that in the lab to make sure you have the hands-on knowledge and the access to the machines and the tools within your field of study. We've talked a little bit already about the programs that we offer, but here you'll see a comprehensive list of the different programs that we offer. So we have building and construction, so architectural engineering and civil engineering and construction management. We have our computer programs, computer engineering, software engineering, computer science, and user experience. Then we have our engineering programs. So these are very popular programs on campus, and it includes biomedical engineering, biomolecular engineering, electrical engineering, industrial engineering, and our most popular program, which is mechanical engineering. And then, of course, we have our math, business, and nursing, so actuarial science, business administration, and nursing. So as I mentioned, we're a very focused school. We're very specialized in the programs that we have. But this means that we can devote a lot of attention and a lot of resources to the programs that we have. On these next two slides, it really discusses what makes MSoe different, what makes us unique compared to other institutions in the United States, specifically when it comes to engineering. So the first thing you need to know is we are a direct entry school. So what that means is when you are admitted to MSoe, you're also admitted into the program of your choice right away. So this means that you can start taking your major specific classes within the very first term of the first year. If you're looking at other institutions, sometimes they make you apply to the school, and then they also make you apply to the program. But that is not the case at MSoe. Just know that if you are admitted into the school, you're also admitted into your program right away. We also have over 600 hours of lab time throughout 4 years of study. So you're going to have a lot of hands-on experience in your classes, making sure you're learning on the tools and the equipment that you actually would be using in your career. So that way, when you leave MSoe, you're ready to start working right away, and you're very familiar with the equipment in your field. We also have a year-long senior design project. So this means in your final year, in your 4th year, you will spend the year working on a project. So this can be sponsored by a company in Milwaukee, or it can be your own idea. And you actually work with another team of student engineers to complete this project during your final year. We also have very small class sizes, so 13 students to 1 professor, meaning that your classes will be around 20 students per class and can get smaller as you advance through your 2nd, 3rd, and 4th year. So this means that your professors will be very easily accessible to you. They're more than willing to help you, to answer questions or to help you find internships or jobs. And our professors teach all of our classes. Our professors have at least 7 to 10 years of industry experience before they actually started teaching. So they're very familiar with the industry. They know how to help you get internships or jobs, and they're very willing to give you advice on how to be in the industry after you graduate. We also have a 4-year graduation guarantee. So this means that as long as you stay on track and you're passing all of your classes, you are guaranteed to graduate within 4 years. All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about cost information. So as I mentioned, MSoe is a private university, so you can see our tuition prices listed here. So our tuition and fees is about $46,500 per year, and then estimated living expenses are another $12,000. That health insurance adds on $2,000 for a total of about $60,000 per year. One thing that's very, very important to know is that all accepted undergraduate international students will receive a $25,000 per year scholarship. This is automatic. So if you are accepted to MSoe, you will receive this scholarship. This brings the cost down to around $35,000 per year. So this is very competitive for a top engineering institution in the United States, a private institution that has a 96% job placement rate and a $65,000 starting salary. So what this means is that we have a very high return on investment, meaning the investment that you make into your education will be returned once you graduate and you start working and you're employed and you start making a very high salary. So MSoe is a fantastic investment because you're getting a top quality education and you'll start making that high starting salary as soon as you graduate. You may be wondering, where do our graduates work? So here are some companies in Milwaukee, such as Harley-Davidson, Johnson Controls, GE Healthcare. And then there are very large companies in the United States, such as Tesla, Google, and Amazon, where our students are getting internships and getting hired for full-time jobs. When it comes to living on campus, here is one of our living opportunities. This is the Groman Tower. It's an on-campus furnished apartment with a kitchen and a bathroom. This is where many of our international students will live if they choose to live on campus. But of course, as I mentioned, you are not required to live on campus. This is just one opportunity. This apartment is nice because it has everything in it that you'll need, and everything is included in the monthly price. So this includes your internet, access to utilities such as electricity, heat, water, everything is included in the price. So this is a really great place for you to live, and it is located on campus, so you can easily walk to all of your classes. If you decide to live in one of our residence halls, these are the residence halls that we have. Herman Viets Tower is a brand new residence hall, very state-of-the-art, has very nice rooms, furniture, classroom spaces, collaborative study spaces. It's a wonderful place for you to live as well. And then we have two other residence halls as well, Margaret Lock and Regent's Residence Hall. So all three of these would also be a great place for you to live if you choose to live on campus. When discussing admission requirements, we touched on this a little bit already. So we do require to see your transcripts with a minimum 3.0 GPA on the US system. We also have a lower requirement for business and construction management at 2.8. You do need to submit an English proficiency test, so we accept the TOEFL or the IELTS, and we also accept Duolingo, so any of the three you can submit. And as I mentioned, the ACT or the SAT is recommended, but it's not required. So if you have not taken it, it will not negatively affect your application. Of course, these are engineering programs, so we like to see a strong math and science background. And once you get through the admission process, we do require a financial guarantee and a copy of your passport. Our application is free, so if you're interested, I highly encourage you to apply on our website. Our next intake is coming in spring for March, but of course, fall is when most of our students will join us. So we are accepting applications all the way from now through to the beginning of the summer. Just make sure that you have all of your documents turned in. So that way, if you do decide to enroll at MSoe, you have enough time to get your visa documents and to have your visa appointment. This is my picture here. Again, please apply on our website there for next steps. If anyone is interested to reach out to me further, my email address is there along with my WhatsApp. So please feel free to contact me, but now I will open it up for additional questions.
All right. Thank you very much. And I have a couple of questions, and maybe we can encourage the students or the people who are watching to send us more questions. I have a question regarding graduate degrees. What are the requirements for? I mean, if someone is thinking about like a master, a PhD, are the same requirements? Do they have to take a standardized test? What kind of information we can provide them?
Yes, of course. So MSoe is a very highly regarded undergraduate institution, but we also do have graduate programs. We do not have PhDs. We only have graduate programs, and we have 6 different graduate programs. So we have Master of Science in Engineering, Master of Science in Civil Engineering, Master of Science in Architectural Engineering, and then we have MBA, Master of Science in Engineering Management, and then Master of Science in New Product Management. So again, very focused on engineering and business at the graduate level. if you're interested to apply, it's a very similar process. You would find our free application on our website, and then the application documents do vary slightly depending on which program you're interested in. Because of COVID, we are lenient with the GRE. We're not necessarily requiring it, but if you do not take the GRE, then the rest of your application should be fairly strong, including your GPA, your English proficiency test, and your letters of recommendation. So depending on which program you're interested in would determine which documents are required. But for the most part, it's a fairly similar process.
Okay. Good. And then let's see. Here we have Andrea. Let's see what Andrea is asking. Andrea, could you tell me a bit more about the scholarship financial aid available?
Yes, of course. So the scholarship that's available, it's only available at the undergraduate level. So if you're interested in an undergraduate degree, a bachelor's degree, we do offer that $25,000 scholarship, and that's guaranteed. So if you're admitted to MSoe, you do receive that scholarship. That is not going to cover all of tuition, though. And unfortunately, we don't have many other opportunities for additional financial aid. That's a very high scholarship in the United States, and it is given to you just for your admission based on your merit. We don't have any opportunities for need-based aid, so just know that if you do enroll at MSoe, you will receive that scholarship, but then you will have to be able to provide the rest of the funds for tuition and living expenses.
And Samantha, just adding to that, will the student be able to work on campus, like the 20 hours that I usually work?
Yes, they will be able to. So many of our international students will work on campus. We have many who work in the admissions office and across the rest of campus. And then remember too that most of our students will have those paid internships over the summer. Unfortunately, this is not financial proof for you to receive your visa, but when you do arrive on campus, you have the opportunity to make those extra funds.
Good. Then we have a question regarding transfer student. I say I want to apply as a transfer student. I am in my second year in a local university. Do you accept some of my courses?
Yes, so likely we will accept some of your courses, but just know we likely will not take all of the courses. So typically if students are transferring in, if they've completed 2 years elsewhere, typically you can expect to complete 3 years here as well. But that's dependent on the courses that you've taken. If you're already taking engineering courses, then the chances of them transferring in are much higher.
Okay. All right. And what is the process to apply as a transfer student?
Yeah, so it's very similar. You'll apply online for free at the link listed here. And then one of the admissions counselors will reach out to you and request your documents. So then you would send your college transcripts and we would look at the classes that you've taken and we would determine if any of them could qualify for transfer. In order for them to qualify for transfer, you do have to submit the syllabi or the syllabus for each of the courses you're requesting to transfer in, just so that we can make sure that it is a good match to transfer in for one of our courses.
And do they apply to these, I don't remember the name, roll admission?
Oh, rolling admission? Yes.
Yeah.
So MSoe is on a rolling admission. So that means that we don't have any deadlines. So you could apply today, you could apply in a month, you could apply in March, and we would still consider your application for admission. Now, of course, I always encourage students to apply earlier rather than later, because then we will be able to help you with your visa documents a lot sooner. So because of COVID, some visa appointments are taking a little bit longer than they normally would. So that's why I encourage you to complete your application soon, so that way we can help you through the visa process.
Yeah, I just thinking about like here in the southern hemisphere, our classroom goes from, our school year goes from March to December. So if someone who like this transfer student is thinking of like applying, he could apply anytime, but then he will enter the next fall. Is that how it's going to work?
We also have a spring intake in March. So if they completed it in December and then applied, potentially they could start here in March, or they could wait until fall.
Okay. I didn't pay attention to it. Are you in the semester system or in the?
We are in the quarter system. So we have fall, winter, and spring. So our winter quarter is actually going to start in 2 weeks, and then our next intake starts in March.
Okay, and well, Andrea was asking about can I apply to the spring semester?
Mhm.
What's the deadline for the spring semester?
So I would say the latest you want to get your application documents completed is by the end of December, maybe January, just because I know it can take a little bit longer to get a visa appointment depending on what the situation is there. So we can prepare your documents very quickly. It's just up to you to have a visa appointment scheduled to be able to make it by March.
Okay. We had an interesting case here at Education USA of one of our kids who got a scholarship, but he also received like a double major.
Mm.
Uh, what will it take to get a double major uh, at the
Mm.
MSE in terms of like, will they have to graduate in 4 years, or will have to take a little bit longer? How do you manage that?
Sure. So we do have quite a number of students who are interested in double majors. If you know from the very beginning of your 4 year degree that you want to pursue a double major, likely you'll be able to navigate it easier than if you decide to add a double major on, a year in or 2 years in. We are not guaranteeing that students who add a double major are able to graduate within 4 years. Usually they cannot get done in 4 years. But like I said, if you add it on in the beginning of your program, it will make it easier to condense your time. So some students will graduate in 5 years if they have a double major, but you'll work directly with your advisor, your academic advisor, to make sure that you're making the most of your time.
Okay, I have a final question thinking about that graduate degrees.
Mhm.
Usually, when you apply to undergrad, it's kind of easy because you're going to find your program along the way. But what can you mention about the graduate programs that could be interesting for those people that are considering a master's degree in engineering? What is be like something that could be like very trending program that maybe won't see anywhere else?
Sure. So it depends on what your interest is. It depends on what your focus is. And usually students can find that throughout their undergraduate degree. Even if it's engineering, if it's business, usually over the course of those 4 years, you really find what's most interesting to you. And you find what type of career you want to have after you're finished. So, those who move on to graduate school, it is a little bit more specific. So, that's when you really start to focus on what you're most interested in. So, for example, we have Master of Science in Engineering Management. This is a really great program for students who have an engineering degree. And then they decide they want to be a supervisor or a leader, or they want to start their own business. Then they go back to school and get an engineering management degree because they already understand the technical aspect of the job, but they need more business skills when it comes to opening a business or becoming a manager or a leader. So, this is often a really great opportunity for students to build those business skills while still having a solid engineering background.
Good. Thank you very much. All right. I think we are almost completing the hour. I just want to give you thanks, and I appreciate your time. I appreciate it that we had a very long email conversation, and I'm sorry that sometimes it took so
That's
long,
okay. That
but
is
we
okay.
finally made it. We made it, and I really appreciate your time. I think this is very exciting.
Mm.
It's a very exciting option for many students, as particularly the one interested in STEM.
Mm.
Uh, and they already know if they're an international student, they already have some help for to be a student here.
Yes.
So thank you very much, Samantha,
Thank you.
and I appreciate everything. And we will have this video available for everybody for the rest of the week and in our YouTube channel, Education USA Chile.
Thank you very much, everyone, for joining me. Again, if you have additional questions, feel free to reach out. And thank you for having me.
All right. Have a good evening.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye bye.